When government budgets decrease, the number of arrests increase. Think about it. What a great source of revenue. A simple driving infraction can net hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for city or state treasuries. Now, there's no doubt that being arrested is probably the most intimidating, embarrassing, and scary thing that could ever happen to a person, especially when it's totally unexpected. Most people are completely unprepared for such an occurrence. They have no idea where to turn. Well, there's good news. The law offices of Virginia Landdry, located in Orange County, California, are giving a voice to the underdog. They are dedicated to helping those that have been accused of everything from traffic tickets to murder, although they do specialize in alcohol and drug-related charges. I sat down with Miss Landdry and talked to her about how she and her practice are ensuring that their clients are treated fairly, are innocent until proven guilty, and that there isn't any government intrusion where there shouldn't be.
Unfortunately, there are many people who never challenge their court cases. They don't realize that the breath devices are not necessarily accurate, maintained correctly, or used correctly. All three of those could be circumstances that may help someone avoid a conviction and not have to have the punishment related to a driving under the influence allegation.
The benefits to having Ron here is that a lot of firms have to refer their cases out to get an expert's opinion. An expert will charge a fee just to review your case, even if they're not going to testify on it. We don't have to do that here. Ron can review a case and can tell me whether or not this is something that we need to hire an expert on, or whether or not this is something that we don't need to hire an expert on. He can also point us in the direction of articles, literature, things like that. We don't need an expert to tell us those things because we can go right down the hall and have Ron do it. So it's been a great asset for me as an attorney. I think it's a great asset for our clients to have somebody like that in-house who, for no additional fee, can give us that sort of opinion.
One of the things that makes our firm so uniquely qualified to help you if you've been arrested for a DUI is that all three of the attorneys are very active with the California DUI Lawyers Association, and I'm on the board of directors for that. The other organization is the National College of DUI Defense, and I'm also on the board of regents for that. One of the things that I'm quite proud of is the fact that I sat for and successfully completed a certification process through the National College of DUI Defenders. There have only been 45 people across the nation that have qualified and passed the rigorous standards for that board certification. As a board certified specialist in driving under the influence cases, I hope to be able to use my training experience and knowledge to help you either win a reduction on your case or an acquittal.
Well, prosecutions in DUI cases are oftentimes based on averages and presumptions. So one of the things that we do is we use our knowledge of the scientific literature to show that there's a bigger picture than the prosecution's often presenting.
You say you know the science. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
If we're talking about a driving under the influence case, there is alcohol, breath, blood, or in some cases even urine testing that is going to be required by the government and something that they're going to try to use against the individual to get a conviction on a crime. Unfortunately, breath testing by itself is not always an accurate science. Blood testing has a lot of different variability that can come into it if there's a hospital draw as opposed to a forensic draw by a phlebotomist. So there are all these scientific issues that are very important that they're handled correctly, or someone could be convicted on what I call junk science.
Part of it is just knowing the weaknesses of the machine. It has no mouth alcohol detection, so if there's any alcohol in your mouth from recent drinking or from bringing alcohol up from your stomach, that can contaminate the results of the tests, and the machine has no way of knowing. It's subject to radio frequency interference, it's subject to other types of problems that, because we know about them, we can present those to a jury and show them that there's doubt about the accuracy of that reading. Even the instrument's margin of error and its calibration need to be looked at.
The Alcohol Sensor 4 device has been approved by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. However, they're not the most reliable of machines, and I can say that because we own one. When a police officer believes that an individual has been consuming alcohol and they may be impaired for purposes of operating their car, they have the authority to ask if you've been lawfully arrested to take either a breath or a blood test. If you choose the breath test, this is one of the devices that you will see. There are some instructions that the police officer has to comply with. For instance, has to have a 0-0 level. Once it reaches that, the chamber has been opened and they're ready for a test until you hear the click. Once the click goes through, the machine is going to be monitoring to find out what happens in regards to an alcohol level. And it came across as a 0-0. Police officers are required to take 2 independent tests. Those 2 tests must be within a 10% margin of error between themselves. If they're past that amount, a 3rd test could be required, but it also may mean that the machine is not operating correctly. There are very specific rules and regulations on how often these machines have to be maintained and calibrated. And one of the things that our office will do is to make sure that the government has done what is required. Maintenance and calibration by itself doesn't mean that the machine is operating correctly or that those test results are valid and reliable. We will try to exclude testing results if we can show that there is an operator error, that there is a user error, that there is a maintenance and calibration error, or that the machine is just not accurate based on paperwork and documents that we're able to subpoena.
Most clients who walk in, this is the first time they've ever had to deal with something like this. And as attorneys, I think it's easy for people to forget because we're a part of it every day. We're in court every day, we're dealing with police officers every day. This is something that we're fairly used to. For the person walking in the door, it's the complete opposite. It's the first time they've been in a situation like this. They're scared, they're intimidated, and they have a lot of questions. So the first thing that we try to do is to help put their mind at ease. I think the first way that attorney, especially here, we can do that is to answer the questions that they have. What are the worst case scenarios? What are the best case scenarios? What are some of the defenses that are available to them? And once we've explained that to them, I think most clients will feel a little more in control of a situation that they previously felt was out of their control. We try to make sure that throughout the process they're kept updated about everything that's happening in their case. We schedule regular meetings with the attorneys where we go through their police report with them, we review all their court options, we review the possibilities at their DMV hearing so that there's never a point where they're feeling that they don't know what's going to happen next. So I think taking the unknown and taking the stress out of the situation is something that we can offer them, and we try to do that for each and every client that walks through our door.
Do each of the counties in Southern California have different standards?
A case in Los Angeles is going to have a different device that's being used than a case that's handled here in Orange County. Same thing with Riverside, San Bernardino, Los Angeles, San Diego, and Orange County. Those are the 5 counties that we practice in. We are familiar with all of those court systems. Although the laws don't change, some of the punishment can change. Here in Los Angeles, if you're convicted of a first-time DUI, different than the other counties, you would be required, if convicted, to have an ignition interlock device installed on your car. That's not required in any of the other counties.
When we retain clients, I've developed some forms that I use to make sure that we've covered everything that we need to think about in the preparation of their case. So all of the scientific issues that could come up, I have a medical questionnaire, because in DUI cases you're dealing with human physiology, either the effects of alcohol or the effects of drugs and medications. And so you need to know about that person's physiology, and if there are things like diabetes or other conditions that could have changed their physiology in the way alcohol or the drugs work compared to anybody else, and that may provide a defense. So we look for those things. And then we also do extensive discovery through the crime lab and the police departments to make sure that we know absolutely everything about that case before it goes to trial or to help us in our negotiations.
I think we really focus on customer service, and so any questions that they have throughout the process, they're going to have answered right away. We have a full-time staff that's here to answer questions, even if we're in court or if we're in trial or something where we're unavailable. Somebody will always be there to answer their question, and if it's something they can help them with, they'll make sure to grab us as soon as we get in the door so that we can. And we do take time with each client, not just the first intake appointment, but every appointment after that. You'll get all the time you need to sit down with your attorney face-to-face and talk about what's happening on your case.
Tell me, what makes your practice unique?
Our firm has such high qualifications that most law firms don't even know exist. Here's the difference. All 3 of us are certified in the proper administration of the standardized field sobriety test. It's a group of hand-eye coordination exercises that a police officer will use out in the field to try to determine if someone is impaired for purposes of operating their car. All three of us are also nationally recognized as instructors for that course. There's very few attorneys here in the Southern California counties that actually are certified, have gone through the program as a student, let alone be nationally recognized as an instructor. Skills, trial capabilities, and personal attention. That distinguishes us from our competition.
With our level of experience, we're able to negotiate positive resolutions for a lot of our clients' cases without having to take them to trial. But in the right cases, we have no hesitation for taking a case to a jury. And having the ability to convey these scientific concepts simply to a jury is very important. We track the maintenance of every instrument that's being used in Orange County, from the blood testing instruments to the breath testing instruments, and the records that we get are just basically a narrative of what happens. And we take those and basically make a calendar graph of it so I can see where recurring problems are happening. And that makes a much more powerful presentation in front of a jury as well.
I know what it is like to be wrongfully accused of something that you didn't do. If there's a problem on the case, we will find it. If somebody has been wronged, procedures weren't done correctly, policies weren't complied with, wrong opinions are being thrown out there for judges or jurors to consider, it is our opportunity and it's our good fortune to have the resources and the tools to expose those kind of inappropriate actions.
While being arrested is probably one of the most terrifying experiences a person can endure, the accused doesn't have to go it alone. There is help. The law offices of Virginia Landdry are making sure that the accused does in fact have a voice. I'm Larry Anderson, reporting from Irvine, California.